If you need a car that blends into the background, look somewhere else. Nissan's Juke is a small SUV that's sold like hotcakes because it makes a visual statement. This improved version of the second generation model keeps the design extreme but adds a more practical cabin complete with larger, more sophisticated screen tech. As before, there's the option of a frugal hybrid engine if you can stretch to it.
The Nissan Juke is willfully weird, but it's hit a nerve with British buyers who love the thing. Here we take a look at the improved version of the Mark II model. It's nothing quite like a Nissan Juke. Part SUV, part sports coupe, part hot hatch, with a few bike and rallycar genes thrown in for good measure. It sounds an unpromising mix, but against the odds, Nissan's made it work, and in the original first generation F15 version of this car, which sold between 2010 and 2019, defined once and for all what the market's smallest breed of crossover class car should be like. What was most amazing about the original Juke was that a company the size of Nissan could build it. The usual procedure is for a maverick designer to come up with just such a concept, only for company heads to shelve it, for customer clinics to reject it, or for marketing pressure to water it down. Somehow, the earlier Juke survived all of these potential trapdoors, and from its launch in 2019, the Mark II F16 model continued with the same divisive but trendy thing, remaining arguably the most distinctive family car on sale. 5 years into its production life, Nissan updated this Mark II Juke in spring 2024, and it's that improved design that we look at here. To find out all about it, you'll need the usual comprehensive car and driving review. There are no powertrain or handling changes as part of the updates made to this improved version of this second generation Juke, which means that, as before, you get a choice of two petrol engines. Mainstream Jukes use a conventional 1 litre 3-cylinder petrol unit, still unelectrified, badged DIG T114, and offered with either manual or automatic transmission. This Juke hybrid, with power boosted to 143 PS, looks a much more sophisticated proposition than its standard stablemate. Too sophisticated, you might think, with 3 hybrid modes and, for its auto gearbox, 4 combustion gears and 2 EV ones. As that complexity might suggest, it's a full hybrid system, unlike the more ineffectual mild hybrid setups offered on most other small SUVs, which have much smaller drive batteries. As we found when we first tried this second generation Juke back in 2020, this F16 era design, like its predecessor, remains a more dynamic confection than the usual fashion-led small crossover, something absolutely necessary if this Nissan is to continue to appeal beyond its genre to extrovert, style-conscious small car buyers who might otherwise buy something sportier, a mini hatch perhaps. Or maybe even something like a Mazda MX-5. That means it's got to handle, which is quite an ask for something with the short, tall stance and extra weight of an SUV. Still, as you begin to realise after a few miles with this Juke on twisting secondary roads, the cleverness of modern engineering means that unpromising statistics like these can still be converted into a car that delivers a satisfying steer. Something helped here by the 13% improvement in torsional rigidity brought about by this second generation model's CMFB platform, which presumably is the main reason why body roll is slightly better controlled than it was in the earlier F15 era model. Drive this Nissan in a way that few typical owners ever would, and you'll find that, aided by decently responsive steering, it hangs on tenaciously through the turns, if not quite Ford Puma-like, certainly in a way that makes most other segment rivals feel compromised and bland. As with that Ford, there's a torque vectoring package to help here. Nissan calls its system Active Trace Control, and as usual with this kind of feature, subtle brake pressures applied to the front wheels at speed through the turns. This loads up the front of the car, pushing the tyres more firmly into the tarmac and increasing their bite on the road. As a result, Nissan's marketing spiel says that roundabouts will become your playground. Not sure how your local constabulary will feel about that. We should point out though that Nissan has had to adopt a pretty stiff suspension setup to make it all work. Too stiff, you might feel, if you've opted for the big 19-inch wheels that come fitted to top models like the one we're trying here. You really need to try before you buy here, particularly if, as is likely, your Juke will mainly be used on suburban duties. With the 17-inch rims of lesser variants though, the damping balance offers a more bearable compromise, helped by the way that the suspension setup's been retuned for this Mark II model, with smaller secondary springs housed within the dampers to cushion rebound strokes as you drive over bumps. That combines with standard active ride control, which immediately after you've hit a pothole or a tarmac tear, gently applies brake pad to brake disc, usually at the rear, so as to ease back body pitch and keep the car more stable. You'll particularly notice it working over speed bumps. Performance isn't much different whichever flavour of Juke you prefer. The 114 PS 1 litre model makes 62 miles an hour in 10.2 seconds in manual form, or 11.8 seconds as an auto, and tops out at 112 miles an hour. This hybrid is fractionally quicker than its conventionally engined stablemate, something effectively disguised by the languid and quite lethargic nature of the power delivery. 62 miles an hour takes 10.1 seconds en route to just 103 miles an hour. This hybrid, as we said, uses a very sophisticated power plant, though not as sophisticated as the e-power setup Nissan uses in its larger Qashqai, a much more efficient powertrain that we wish had been engineered for this Juke. As it is, the Juke hybrid pairs a 94 PS 1.6 litre combustion unit with a 20 PS starter generator and a 49 PS electric motor mounted within a 4-speed multimodal auto gearbox, which manages both power sources. This car's close cousin, the Renault Captur hybrid, uses the same setup, but what's different about its installation in the Juke is the further inclusion of something rarely seen in a hybrid, this Nissan's e-pedal function, which increases regenerative braking to the point where the car can slow right down to 5 miles an hour when you come off the throttle. It also improves water cooling for the compact 1.2 kilowatt-hour battery, which always powers the car from start off and can take you up to 34 miles an hour without troubling fossil fuel if you activate this EV button between the seats. Once you crest the EV speed barrier, the powertrain switches into series hybrid mode, where the engine charges the battery. Great for urban driving. And at high speeds and under heavy acceleration, the whole setup reverts to parallel mode, in which both the e-motor and the engine drive the wheels. Nissan has had to tweak the springs and dampers to accommodate the hybrid system's extra 100 kilos of weight. Whatever your choice of drivetrain, providing you avoid the humblest trim level, to suit the current segment trend, you'll get a set of drive settings accessed via this D-mode button below the gear stick. Though we're not sure that after initial sampling you'll be using them all that often. Eco makes the throttle seem somewhat treacly, while Sport rather overweights up the steering. Best to stay in the compromise standard setting then, which rather defeats the point of having the D-mode option in the first place. What else? Well, you wouldn't expect a four-wheel drive option in this class of SUV, and you can't have any sort of grip control style traction system either. In fact, any sort of off-tarmac excursion in this crossover would probably be extremely unwise. As for the highway, well, apart from a bit of whistling from the turbocharger and some wind noise around the mirrors, refinement's reasonable at cruising speeds, so you could happily use your Juke for the kind of longer trips where the ride quality caveats we mentioned earlier wouldn't be so much of an issue. Like its predecessor though, this Nissan's at its happiest over shorter hops. It remains a concoction that one writer once likened to a kind of shrunken SUV sports car in super springy trainers. That sums it up, we think. If that sounds appealing, then for you, a Juke might well be too. Unless you count this bright new iconic yellow paint option, there are no exterior changes to this Juke as part of this mid-term update. So, as before, it does still look like either something dredged up from the abyssal depths of the ocean, or a fun, friendly and futuristic little runabout, depending on your perspective. Whichever camp you're in, you have to hand it to Nissan for not losing its resolve and watering this design down. From the side, the dimensions, 4.2 metres of length, continue to place this F16 era model halfway between a Super Mini and a family hatch in terms of size, but the cartoonishly curvaceous panel work curves above the wheel arches that marked out the earlier F15 design have been replaced by this sweeping swage line that flows from the chunky rear haunches aggressively down toward this front wing. The so-called floating roof can, as here, be contrast coloured, though you can only have that with the priciest levels of trim. If you're happy to pay for this kind of top spec model, you'll get personalised satin grey insert added to the bumpers and side skirts, along with this satin silver lower front apron finisher. Whatever kind of body finish you prefer, visually, as ever with the Juke, it's still a stylistic tale of two halves. The bottom section of the car, all SUV with its black-clad arches and lower bodywork that emerges from underneath, resembling underbody protection. Above the waistline, though, the sports car DNA shines through, almost as if Nissan had bolted the top half of its GTR Super Coupe to the bottom half of a Qashqai crossover and shrunk the resulting concoction in the wash. To suit this kind of stance, the alloy rims are big, of course, with a choice of either 17 or, as in this case, 19-inch rims. Head-on, encountering the original Juke for the first time gave you the feeling of meeting something from a movie, Disney Pixar's Cars film, perhaps. This one's a little more Judge Dredd, but still continues to make more of a style statement than any other remotely family-friendly five-door you can buy for sensible money. Either side of Nissan's trademark V-motion grille, you still get these huge headlights that on the original model were styled on rallycar fog lights, but with this Mark II design, they're more sophisticated with full LED beams that display with a Y-shaped signature. Slim side lights sit just above them to further emphasise the rather stern countenance. At the back, the glass angle is steeply raked with a wide boot aperture made possible because the rear lights are mounted partly on the tailgate rather than completely occupying the corners of the bodywork as they did on the original Juke. Okay, let's take a look inside. Where it's a little more obvious that this is an updated version of the second generation Juke, primarily because of the improved screen tech. At 12.3 inches in size, the Nissan Connect Center touchscreen is nearly 50% larger than it was before. And on virtually all models, you now get a Combimeter instrument screen of the same big size to replace the old analog dials. Other updates include a bigger 6.6-litre glove box, that's 29% larger than before, a redesigned, more supportive armrest, and the standardisation of a wireless charging pad on most models, which can take a smartphone as large as an iPhone 12 Pro Max. Plus, there are now both USB-A and USB-C ports. If you've stretched to a top variant like this N Sport model, what you're more likely to notice though is the more extrovert cabin trimming, though it doesn't have to be quite as extrovert as this. Midnight black, synthetic leather and various hues of Alcantara trim lift the cabin ambience to another level, completed by copious amounts of contrast stitching, which also features across upholstery, which as part of the updates swaps real leather for the artificial kind. Splashes of carbon fibre-esque trim add a finishing touch. Otherwise, this cabin is just as we remember it from when we first tried this F16 design back in 2020. A few of the motorcycle-style touches of the earlier F15 era model are gone, but the cabin's of much higher quality than was served up by that original. And there are still some fun features, like these eyeball-style corner vents and a circular gear selector surround illuminated by ambient lighting, an idea borrowed from Mini. The ergonomics are certainly a world away from those of the earliest model, which couldn't even offer a reach-adjustable steering wheel. And you're positioned quite high on these sporty-looking monoform seats with integrated headrests that can incorporate little integrated speakers if you've a variant with the desirable Bose audio upgrade fitted. We mentioned the combi meter instrument display. Well, its outer dials can be configured to rather unusually turn on their sides if you want to increase central screen space that can be devoted to either a chassis control graphic, audio settings, a compass, trip data, a drive assist graphic or an energy flow monitor. Everything else you'll need to know is of course on this Nissan Connect Center touchscreen, which has a home display showing in the usual customizable widget sections with shortcut functions along the right hand side of the frame. Nissan boasts the freshly added inclusion on this upgraded monitor of Wi-Fi and Alexa activation, plus voice control improved with Google Assistant tech, though close inspection of the fine print reveals that this sort of stuff costs extra on most models. All versions get freshly added wireless connectivity for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto though. What else? Well, frontward vision is good. Predictably, rearward visibility, impeded by the chunky C-pillars, is much less impressive, so you'll need the standard rear view camera, and if you've stuck with entry-level trim, might miss that base variant's lack of rear parking sensors. At least there's a reasonable amount of cabin storage, as well as the larger glove box. There are reasonably sized door bins, plus a lidded box between the seats, with cup holders just ahead. Right, let's take a look at the back. The rear doors, like those in the Toyota CHR, accessed via these high-set handles. The original F15 era Juke was very cramped indeed in the back, as we found in our original test of this F16 design back in 2020. An extra 105mm of wheelbase length has made a big difference to that, 58mm of legroom difference to be exact, but it's still rather on the cramped side back here, and the high belt line gives a somewhat claustrophobic feel that your kids might not like. They'll appreciate though the fact that there are both USB-A and USB-C ports back here. And if you regularly transport folk in the rear, you'll be vastly better off with this car's Renault Capture close cousin, which is not only more spacious, but has the huge advantage of being able to offer a sliding rear bench. The door bins have bottle holders, but it seems very mean of Nissan to restrict seatback pockets to upper spec trim. Okay, we'll finish with a look out the back, where the boot in the conventionally engined 1 litre model is 422 litres in size, a figure which falls to 354 litres in this hybrid variant. The ordinary version's figure is actually better than the swoopy styling might lead you to expect, but is of course way off the class best. You're going to want your Juke fitted with this luggage board adjustable height boot floor, which entry-level trim has to do without. There's no space for anything else beneath the cargo base. Flattening the 60-40 split backrest increases cargo capacity to 1,305 litres with the 1 litre model, or 1,237 litres with this hybrid. From the launch of the revised version of this Mark II Juke, Nissan was offering a range priced from around £23,500, the sum required for the base Acenta Premium trim. From there, the range progresses through mid-range N connector spec to plusher Tecna trim, and then to the top, identically priced Tecna Plus and N Sport models, which from launch cost from £28,400. It's N Sport trim that we're trying here. Those prices are for the conventional DIGT 114 engine with manual transmission. If you want the 1 litre model with every trim grade, there's the opportunity to pay £1,500 more for a 7-speed DCT automatic. This Juke Hybrid, which of course is auto only, is priced from around £27,000, which represents a premium of around £3,500 over the base manual powertrain setup, or just over £2,000 more than the 1 litre automatic. And you can have the hybrid with all of the trim options: Acenta Premium, N connector, Tecna, Tecna Plus, or this N Sport variant. In its segment, the most obvious alternative to this Nissan is another Renault-Nissan Alliance product, the Renault Capture, which is almost identically engineered, but in conventional and hybrid engined forms, costs a couple of £1,000 less. You'll have to decide whether you think this Nissan's more extreme design philosophy justifies that premium. Both cars take on a wide range of similarly priced key players in the SUV B segment, like Ford's Puma, Peugeot's 2008, Citroen's C3 Aircross, Vauxhall's Mocha and Frontera, Volkswagen's T-Cross, Toyota's Yaris Cross, Škoda's Kamiq and Seat's Arona. There's also Kia's Sonic, Hyundai's Bayon, Dacia's Duster, and for committed fashionistas, the DS3. So you're not short of segment choice. It's worth knowing that in this segment, only the Renault Captur, the Dacia Duster and Toyota's Yaris Cross can be had with the kind of full hybrid engine option that we're trying here. The kind of engine that can run for short urban distances on electric power alone. If you're tempted by this Juke, you'll be wanting to know about standard spec, so let's take a look at that now. All versions of this Nissan get the larger 12.3-inch Nissan Connect centre touchscreen. That's the main product upgrade here, with its wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone system. You'll have to pay extra though for the Wi-Fi and voice-controlled Google Assistant features that Nissan's added as part of this update. All Jukes get a 7-inch Combi meter instrument display, a rear view camera and alloy wheels in various styles. Rather than limit yourself to base a centre premium trim, you'll probably want to progress at least to mid-range N connector spec, because that gets you some key Juke features that you'll probably want, like a luggage board for the boot, drive modes and a bigger 12.3-inch Combi meter instrument screen, replacing the 7-inch display that's with base trim. As well as key everyday features missing from a centre premium spec, like a wireless phone charging mat, rear parking sensors, navigation, intelligent key keyless entry and rain sensing wipers, and some welcome plush touches like Syntec faux leather upholstery, rear privacy glass, ambient lighting, power folding mirrors, an upgraded 6-speaker audio system, front parking sensors, automatic climate control and an auto dimming rear view mirror, and a smarter black and diamond cut finish for the 17-inch wheels. N connector spec offers a far wider range of options as well. That's really all you need in a Juke, but you'll be tempted to spend more. Techna trim upgrades you to larger 19-inch wheels, quilted upholstery, extra gear console ambient lighting, heat for the front seats and steering wheel, a useful Thermoclear heated windscreen, an intelligent around view monitor, intelligent cruise control, and a 10-speaker Bose audio system. Fashionistas will gravitate towards the top Techna Plus variant or this N Sport variant, identifiable by this contrast colour roof and a satin silver front bumper finisher, because that's what will be needed if you're to set your Juke apart with Nissan's personalisation packs. These add satin grey inserts around the exterior and midnight black synthetic leather and Alcantara trim in the cabin. The 19-inch wheels have a deep 3D effect finish with the Techna Plus or this black Akari styling with this N Sport model. Most Juke customers spend extra on accessories. There's a front spoiler, lip finisher, carbon black mirror caps, illuminating kick plates and a black tailgate spoiler. And you can also add a tow bar, a rear bike carrier, or the roof crossbars that would enable you to add a roof box or carriers for bikes, skis or snowboards. You're probably going to be paying Nissan extra for your choice of exterior colour. The brand expects a big uptake on this newly added iconic yellow finish, and new wheel trim options are available too. What about safety kit? Well, with the mainstream Ascenta Premium and N connector variants, there's just the camera basics, intelligent emergency braking, lane departure warning and traffic sign recognition, though you do also get high beam assist and intelligent lane intervention, plus tyre pressure monitoring and the usual twin front, side and curtain airbags linked to an e-call system. The top 3 trim levels further add blind spot intervention, lane keep assist, intelligent driver alertness, rear cross traffic alert, and there's a traffic jam pilot system as well, which can virtually drive your Juke for you in low speed urban queues. The second generation Juke is looking to retain its predecessor's reputation as being inexpensive to run and should deliver on that promise in its mainstream form thanks to its efficient 1-litre 3-cylinder engine. A relatively low curb weight helps here, achievable thanks to the use of lightweight, high-tension steel in the body. Also quite light is this car's CMFB Nissan Renault Alliance platform, shared with its cousin the Renault Capture. All of this should mean a competitive set of running cost stats, which we'll quote based on entry-level Ascenta Premium trim. From the DIGT 114 1-litre manual model, expect up to 48.7 mpg on the combined cycle, and a CO2 figure of up to 133 grams per kilometre. It's up to 47.1 mpg and 137 grams per kilometre for the DIGT 114 DCT Auto. What about running costs for this hybrid 143 variant? Well, expect up to 58.9 mpg on the combined cycle and a CO2 figure of up to 110 grams per kilometre. The hybrid uses a 20 PS belt starter generator and always starts off in electric mode. What else? Well, the standard 1-litre petrol models are insurance rated at groups 12 and 13. The Juke Hybrid is insurance rated at group 14. Residual values are estimated at between 47 and 51% after 3 years and 36,000 miles. Interestingly, that's a little behind this car's cousin, the comparable Renault Capture. On all Jukes, service intervals will come round every 12 months or 18,000 miles, depending on which comes soonest. Flexible monthly service plans are available from around £20 a month, covering costs for the next 2, 3 or 4 services. As part of any Nissan dealer visit with your car, you'll be provided with a free courtesy vehicle and a video health check for your Juke that you can watch on your phone or computer. Nissan also provides a 3-year 60,000 mile warranty as standard, and that can be lengthened to 4 years, but with the same mileage cap. This recognises that most drivers of small SUVs tend to cover lower distances, but aims to give added peace of mind for those looking to keep their car for longer. And in case of any problems, there's breakdown assistance with roadside help included with the car's protection package. You probably know the guy who complains that all new cars look the same, but has nothing good to say when a brand like Nissan brings us something a little different and fresh. So don't be that guy. The Juke has deservedly carved itself a lucrative niche with an inexpensive vehicle that drives well, is cheap to run, and which isn't afraid to assert its own personality. The second generation model's design remit hasn't altered that fundamental appeal, and with this improved version of that car, a welcome cabin update, brighter colours and this extra N-Sport trim grade have made it more appealing still. With its much larger glove box, it's even a fraction more practical. Though, if practicality is what you're after, it'd make much more sense to choose this model's similarly engineered and more affordable Renault Capture cousin. But this Nissan's as sensible as you'd need it to be, and overall remains an unusual proposition with an appeal that extends beyond the small crossover segment and also attracts the kind of buyers who might otherwise consider trendy small runabouts like Fiat's 500 and the Mini Cooper hatch. Juke buyers think that this Nissan makes urban trinkets like those look rather dull and compromised. But whatever your perspective, there's no doubt that this car remains original in every sense. Who needs ordinary?